maybe I could just ask you, having watched Richard's or Professor Williams' lecture today, and what stood out to you? Did you learn something that you hadn't thought of before? Do you have questions that came from it? There's a lot in that comment, but maybe that's a way to start.
There's something on that. You spoke of faith in Jesus Christ, and I feel like something I see a lot in my peers, being a young college student, is a lot of them kind of have these mini faith crises. They're not necessarily crises, but doubts, when they feel like they should have things going a certain way, but maybe they don't work out as they plan. I'm trying to have faith, to be obedient, but this isn't what I thought it would be, or this isn't happening how I thought it would happen. And the obvious answer, I feel, is, well, you have to trust God and His plan, His will. But sometimes I feel like that's not enough for people when they hear that. Do you have any counsel on how to help people in that kind of situation?
I don't know. Anybody want to offer counsel? Anybody want to offer counsel on that one? I think I would. I think I always have a tendency to be more radical than I need to be, because once you've done that, you can back off to a reasonable position. But it seems like a lot of people I know who feel that way seem to think that there is a plan for me, and it's not what I thought it was, and it doesn't seem to be working, and so what's wrong with this? But that goes back, I think, to the God of the Enlightenment, who is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. Everything's in place. He knows it already. He looks down the timeline and sees what happens to you. And so my life is unfolding in a way that I don't like or that I didn't plan on. What's wrong with this? But I want to back up and say, well, if it would be good to think about ourselves as more active creators in a constant act of creating and being who we are, maybe if we think of God a little bit that way too, and say, maybe God has plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and so His plan is to get us back to become what we can become.
Yeah, I think it's tough too, because so many people are leaving over church history, and it's difficult because the reality is a lot of that did happen. And I guess I've heard some people who have left say, you're just putting that away on a shelf because you can't handle it, and you're just choosing to follow anyway. And I don't know, it's hard to respond when it comes across like that, because we are choosing to follow despite certain things, but to them that just makes no sense at all.
Well,
Hopefully that makes sense.
That's a nasty tactic they pull on you when they do that, because what they're saying is, no matter what you say, you're naive and ignorant. Yeah. And if you were enlightened, you would know. Now we got to be careful we don't pull that same thing on them.
Yeah.
But that's what they're pulling, and so I don't know. But I think the short answer is you tell the truth in love.
Yeah.
And I think you have to say, well, sometimes you can say, well, is your source right? Or you can say, and this makes a difference. How? And what? This replaces what as a truth? And quite frankly, some of it's pretty shallow stuff. I mean, every proclamation I've read of why I'm out of the church, it's a head scratcher. You say, really? Mm-hmm. That did it? Especially because, I know I must have been that big when I had the discussion, polygamy was started by Joseph. Well, he probably lived it, didn't he? I probably did. Okay. Big deal. Nobody hid that for me. I don't know where you've been that you haven't seen. You didn't think about that before. But part of it is, I think, this unrealistic view in the modern world of nothing is hidden, everything is laid open, and it's all on the same level, and so it's faulty judgment. But that all of that doesn't help you very much. I just think you have to following as much as possible the promptings of the Spirit, see where you can make a thoughtful response that has the possibility of shifting the discourse a little bit.
Yeah, it almost feels like because secularity is so valued today that any argument I could have that's not that is just invalid, which is so unfortunate, but almost makes me want to just not respond.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, your life is a living witness
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah.
You know, again, away from those reified ideas we throw back and forth. You know, the way that we treat them, the way
That's
that we live our life is a living witness to them. And over time, you know, I have a dear family member who's left the church. He and his wife have, and I love them dearly. But really, every argument that I can make, I mean, he'll counter, you know.
Yeah.
He's very bright. But the best I can really do is to be a witness to him by the way that I live my life, the way that I treat my wife, my children, him. You know, whenever he sees me on the internet, on Facebook, you know, my life is the only witness he probably has that the restoration's what I say it is.
Well, and that's part of the Enlightenment problem,
Yeah.
is that
Right.
this is
Yeah.
a strictly logical argument.
It's a battle of ideas.
And the church loses,
Yep.
I win,
Right.
and
Right.
you play by the same rules. That's how the game
Yep.
turns out. And the problem is, it's not like that.
Mhm.
No one leaves for purely logical reasons.
Yep.
And, you know, you're living proof that those reasons are not universally compelling.
Right.
Because even when they're right, they don't drive you out of the church. But that it's that I am absolutely coldly rational, and you are not. And A, that's just plain not true. And B, there are two sides of the story, and rational, you know, unless you're dealing with mathematics or something like that, there's no clean, rational system that always ends in one place.